All
It
right,
is
so
Thursday, November 17th, and Matt Ferentinos is interrupting me right at the beginning of my always happening spiel. This is the Give and Go Show, and we're back in your life. My name is Griffin, as always, joined by Matt Ferentinos and Matt Modai. We were in the middle of a conversation about Apple Watches and new Pokemon games, so I figured I might as well start the recording because that's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about before we jump into basketball talk anyways. Before we get going, before we do talk about that stuff, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, click the like button, click the subscribe button if you have not done so already. Comment below whatever you want us to talk about every episode. We have gotten a couple comments from a couple of viewers in recent weeks about stuff that they want us to talk about. So we will make sure that we touch on stuff like that. If you are listening to us on an audio platform, which means that I finally put us up on an audio platform, make sure you click the follow button, make sure you rate and review, all that fun jazz that you know from other podcasts that you listen to. That's kind of it. We're gonna jump back into the conversation that we were having. Matt is gonna go, Ferentinos, excuse me, is gonna go on a shopping spree and
yeah,
spend
just
all of his hard-earned money.
planning my morning. So we're now I'm trying to get remotivated to exercise. So I bought a pair of On Clouds also on Amazon. So I'm pretty stoked for those to come in. Just like fancy workout shoes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what those were.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I've been running on the treadmill.
What size do those go up to?
Probably not your size.
Probably not my size. Oh, it's always a bummer. They never.
I'm a 9.5 wide, so they had that, and I was like, all right, I think this shoe will fit good. But trying to motivate myself to get to the gym again. I can't do a muscle up anymore. I tried and failed, so that's like, all right, I need to get to the gym. I need to start exercising. And also, I figure why not go to Target tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. where I looked it up to get Pokemon Violet. I need some sweatpants because it's getting cold. It's 49 degrees here, and I have like one pair of sweatpants.
Get some gray sweatpants.
Why not get the newest Apple Watch too? Just fuck it. Like,
I don't know why you specifically want him to get gray sweatpants.
It's not for me. It's for a significant other.
For other people, yeah. For people crossing the street. I imagine if people do see him in gray sweatpants, they are going to cross the street. Remind me, Pokemon Violet. What's the other? It's like Scarlet or
I think it's Scarlet Violet. Yeah,
Scarlet and Violet, and this is on the Switch, and this is like the more recent one where it's 3D.
I'm hoping so.
It is
from what I've seen. Yeah, I mean, it sounds sick. Mode. I'll let you take over. I'll talk too much already.
Well, I have a bone to pick as well, but I'm driving back east
all of it.
From Denver tomorrow. We're driving back, taking the dog, so we're driving back, taking the whole holidays back east, and I ordered it to just get delivered, or I pre-ordered it to get delivered to my parents' house in Maryland.
Sure.
Comes out tomorrow. I figured it would arrive on Friday because that's normally what happens when it delivers. So I didn't. And it's Amazon, so I didn't really check the delivery date. It doesn't deliver till Tuesday. So I'm going to get there Saturday, and I'm going to have to wait all day Saturday or however long I'm there, all day Sunday, all day Monday, and then Tuesday when it delivers. So I'm debating.
Here's my question before you continue. Why not cancel that and do the digital download and just put it on one of those like memory cards?
Well, because I like having the physical copy. I'm one of those people.
Sure.
And the reason why I bought it on...
I get it.
On Amazon, I have the Amazon card, so I ended up paying for it with just points. Like I have the Amazon card, so I could cancel it, and then I'm going to use the $60 on something else, so I could just cancel it and go pick it up at Target or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send you my address. You can always get it shipped to me instead. I'll pay it. I have a Switch.
I mean, I could cancel it or just get a refund.
Yeah, I mean, either way, both.
Yeah, either one works fine.
Yeah.
But no, it looks dope. There's like the thing that's like 3D, which is cool. You can like run around and like Arceus and. They added like 2 extra storylines. I don't know how much research you guys have done, if any.
Zero. Literally zero.
They added there's like the typical like 8 badges, Elite Four storyline, but then they added 2 more. So it's kind of like gold and silver where there's 18 badges total. And you could do the storylines in any order. And it's also like open world. So you could theoretically like go to the 8th gym at the very beginning and just get like washed. But
right.
I heard there were like some performance issues with it, but
who amongst us doesn't have?
Yeah, look, we're 30. We're on the downturn. Who among us?
There are some
had a
nights where performance
issue or
issues are a
three.
thing. There's
like
certain
stuttering frame rate or something like that, or like the game
I
straight up
think,
shutting
and
off?
like a lot of people, just the presentation of it, they say like, it's not the Switch hardware. There are plenty of games that have like the similar style that run a lot smoother.
There's no
Um,
universe where it can run Breath of the Wild and it should be struggling with a Pokemon game. It's
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
don't make. It's because Pokemon games are not well made.
It's because
No,
Game
Game
Freak
Freak,
is they're
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
the cool-
they're a billion-dollar company that has one brand.
And they don't even do it that well.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you can co-op up to 4 people. So you can literally like co-op and join and then like go through the storyline together.
Oh
All
no.
right.
Oh no.
Give and go show.
Now I
Pokemon.
might buy it. Yeah.
Give and
Look,
go
you
show
tell me,
Twitch stream.
You tell me that
Yeah.
I'm fucking in. You tell me a game has co-op and I'll download that shit.
I'm the same way. I'm the
I
same
think
way.
I think we should convert this to Pokemon Twitch stream with occasional basketball talk.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's fine with me.
I mean, yeah. during the downtime in Pokemon, of
Still
which
got to
there is
talk basketball.
a lot, we could talk about basketball. I've always kind of been like, I love, a competitive game. I love like a competitive shooter, or like a fight night or a 2K or whatever. I've always put co-op games over competitive games though when it comes to video games. Like,
Yeah.
even like in the N64 era, if there was a game that was not as good as a GoldenEye or a Perfect Dark, but it had like a co-op mode, like there was a tank game back in the day, like Tank Wars or something like that. I would play that over GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, despite those being better games, just so I could be like on a team with a friend,
Yeah.
rather than constantly playing against them. Because it always gets like, particularly if you're sitting next to each other and you're like a little kid and you're playing against your friends, you always end up getting fucking pissed at each other, or like storming off, or like
Or you could
smacking
all kill
somebody or whatever.
NPCs and it's way
Yeah.
more fun. Like in Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings or Marvel Alliance.
Absolutely.
Like all those.
And
Yeah.
those games are a little bit easier because there's limits on like what the AI can do versus what a human being can do, but they're fun. I like a co-op experience.
But
The co-op
apparently you could get
adventure.
pro tip, you could get a Gengar. I think you could like trade this lady for a Pokemon and get a Gengar by like level 20 in the game, which is
We're getting in
pretty
the
badass.
weeds. We're getting in the weeds about
Yeah,
I saw that
but
with the Pikachu. I didn't see
Yeah.
that with a Gengar. You have to send me that.
all right.
I'm pretty excited to get into this and just looking at the starters. I think I'm
Sure.
gonna go Fuecoco, the fire type.
I'm always
a fire
always
guy.
fire. Always fire. Water is acceptable.
I fluctuate between fire and water. I never do grass.
Water is acceptable. Grass, I don't want to be.
Grass is so boring.
I
Like,
did
and I
grass
feel like
once,
I'm insulting
and it was
Ferentinos by
brutal.
saying that. I feel like that's gonna like fuck up his whole like weed guy image. But fire is always the coolest. Like
It's- of
straight up,
course,
it's
yeah.
always the coolest.
I think
And-
their evolutions are like different types too. That's what they've been doing. It like starts as one type, but I'm curious if it's gonna be like a
Yeah,
fire
in the-
steel or
In the older games, they made Typhlosion like a fire ghost.
I
It's no
loved
longer
it.
just-
Typhlosion was badass.
He's
That was
my-
in
yeah.
gold, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's not dive too deep into the Pokemon rabbit hole. Maybe we'll have that for a bonus episode for our
Let's
non-existent
talk about the
Patreon.
Warriors.
It'll be on our
sucking instead
OnlyFans
of-
account.
Let's talk about a couple of teams. Anything else before we get into basketball talk you guys want to talk about? I was planning on talking about anime a little bit, but considering
Chainsaw
we
Man
spent
is
10
good.
minutes, we did just spend 10 minutes on Pokemon. Maybe we should save that for next episode.
Oh no, I was gonna say I have a basketball related trivia question that someone asked me that I thought was kind of interesting.
Okay, yeah, let's kick it off with the
I'm
trivia
ready.
question. I'm ready to be wrong.
You might
Not
already
looking
know
it
this.
up. Not looking
But-
it up.
There are currently 8 players averaging over 30 points. Can you name all 8? It's not a
Jason
trick question.
Tatum,
Yeah,
Kevin
Tatum,
Durant,
Joel
Kevin
Steph
Embiid,
Curry,
Embiid, Curry,
Giannis.
Giannis.
Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
Shea.
That's
6.
I wish that we hadn't talked over each other, so I knew who was named.
You
Jokic.
named. Sorry, who'd you say?
Jokic.
Not Jokic. You've
No,
named
Jokic
Luka?
is under.
Did we say
Luka.
Luka.
You're missing
Luka.
one more.
Ja.
Did we
Not
say
Ja.
Ja?
He's not it.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yep, he was the one that I struggled with too. I got the
Hey.
first. I rattled off the first 7, and then
Yeah, he's having a crazy hot start for the Cavs.
I didn't- yeah,
All right, well, hey, look, we do all watch basketball, so I'm glad that we got him pretty quick. That is
Fan
kind
of the NBA now.
that does,
not the
yeah.
Nets.
Look, we were talking about it in our group checks. We're a fan of the Shield, just like Rob Lowe. We
Team
stand
Adam
behind
Silver.
fundamental basketball. Yeah, Adam Silver,
Team
my
bald head.
favorite NBA guy.
I watch the
Um,
sportsmanship more than I care about people actually playing basketball. I just want a clean game out there.
Yeah, R.I.P. David Stern. While we're at it, to the point about Donovan Mitchell, Have you guys paid a little bit of attention to the Cavs lately?
They've been
They're
on
on,
a
we talk
little
about the
down
Warriors being
streak
on a
right
skid. The
now.
Warriors have been bad all year. The Cavs are on a skid. They've lost 5
5
straight.
in a row.
And
Yeah.
I've watched 3 of those 5 losses, and I'm gonna say them real quick. They've lost to the Bucks, the Wolves, the Warriors, the Kings, and the Clippers. So they were 8-1. Now they're 8-6, which, you know, if you're a Cavs fan, if you start 8-1, you are not hoping that you're pushing 500 5 games later.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, there's not a bad loss on
That's what I was
that
gonna
list.
say.
They're not losing to the Orlandos of the world. They're not losing, you know, even to the Wizards, who are above 500 team. You know, they're losing to teams that have a lot of talent on their roster, and most of those losses were by like 2 possessions, you know, 5 or 6 point losses. But even still, what's going on with the Cavs?
Defense, I mean, I think, yeah, they're just struggling in their defensive rotations. And I don't know, maybe it's like part of having Garland on the floor a lot. He wasn't playing previously when they were playing really well defensively, and maybe they just have to work him more into the rotation. But he did put up 50 against the Wolves, and
Up
like what the
50.
Cavs are doing is still good. I think, like you said, a few of those possessions, if they go the other way, the Cavs could also have won some of those games. I think they're just going to be a streaky team, but they're going to go on way more win streaks for way longer than they have losing streaks this year. But yeah, I think it's just defense right now and kind of getting used to Garland being out there.
Yeah, I think especially when you look at, like you said, who they lost to. The Wolves is probably the worst loss in that stretch, but the Wolves just won again. I forget who they beat last night. I guess it was like the Magic. Wasn't that impressive of a win, but the Wolves are like maybe starting to get it together. The Kings are probably better than a lot of people thought.
Yeah, the Kings are nice.
Yeah, Kings are playing well.
The
They could
Kings
score.
were a team that I bet on this year to make the play-in. I was pretty confident the Kings were going to be like a 38, 39 win team. I think Vegas had them at like 32.5.
I'm pretty sure if we go to the over/under, we all took the under on the Kings. So I might
we
have
did,
to call.
yeah. And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, you know what? I feel pretty good about these Kings. But part of it's also is not even so much that the Kings are good, which I do think they're good. It's I went back and I looked at a lot of those Western teams, and I was like, there's a lot of potential injuries here. Looking at that Clippers roster, I mean, look at how decimated they've been already. Kawhi Leonard, is he going to play this year? Like,
well, he got like upgraded. He might play tonight.
Really?
Yeah, that came out today. He got upgraded to questionable, and then I think he got updated to probable.
Let's say that Kawhi Leonard plays tonight, and he plays a completely normal game. You know, he goes like 28, 7 and 5. When's the next time that we think Kawhi Leonard is going to touch the court? Do we think January. He plays in whatever their next game is, assuming it's not a back-to-back? Or are we saying, you know, he's 3 or 4 games before he plays again?
I mean, no chance he plays a back-to-back. It depends on like the number of games.
I don't think he's ever going to play back-to-back again in his life.
Yeah. I mean, if he comes back tonight, I feel like it honestly depends how he goes. Like if he goes back tonight and there are no setbacks, I'd probably guess that assuming again, not a back-to-back, like they have even a day's rest, I think he'll probably play.
Sure.
Because I don't know, it's just weird. Like they didn't say what the injury was. It's just he's just managing his knee injury from before, and took like however long, 2 weeks off, whatever it was.
Yeah, but to that Cavs point, you know, yeah, I mean they've lost to good opponents, inconsistent opponents. I mean, obviously the Warriors inconsistent, the Kings a little bit inconsistent, although they're on a good win streak. The Wolves inconsistent, trending towards bad, but they've also had some games where they've been firing on all cylinders, and you're like, okay, I can see how this fit can work. I can see where all the talent is. You know, I was reading something on RNBA or maybe on Twitter this morning about a comparison between how much Anthony Edwards passes to Rudy Gobert versus how much Donovan Mitchell passed to Rudy Gobert, which you guys probably remember the past couple of years was like a big story. Donovan Mitchell does not pass to Rudy Gobert when they were on a team together. Anthony Edwards passes to him about a third as much as Donovan Mitchell did. He passes to him like 1.5 times per game. That's absurd.
It's absurd, but also like if you're passing the ball to Rudy Gobert in the post, that is not efficient offense. That is going nowhere. Unless you're passing it to him with a lob, there's not a single positive thing he can do on the basketball court.
Sure, but there's still mismatches that he can break down by just being bigger than a lot of guys on the court.
Even like,
does he have stone hands? Yeah, but Rudy Gobert, when these teams have high offensive ratings, traditionally, particularly, I mean, like obviously only the Jazz team, but those years where they were like top 5 in offense, Rudy Gobert's pick and roll ratings were up at near the top of the league. They were including him in the pick and roll a lot.
Yeah, I was
The
just
pick and
gonna
roll,
say
yes, but that's like for lob threat, not for like
Right.
yeah.
and to finish that stat, Griffin, they've run 125 pick and rolls, but Gobert's only got the ball 4 times out of that. Like,
Yeah, that's horrible.
And I think part of that look
it's
is
like Ben
Anthony
Simmons
Edwards
level where
still
you
needing to
know that
grow.
he's never getting the ball.
Yeah, it's Anthony Edwards still needing to grow. It's also there are fit issues. I mean, there's fit issues between
With
Gobert
Cat
and
there
Edwards.
too. Their
There's fit
spacing
issues
is so
between
bad.
Gobert and Cat. There's
Yeah.
personality issues between all three of those guys. The D'Lo question mark is one that they really need to figure out soon. I think they need to do something with D'Lo. I don't know if there's like a way to kind of rehab his image with the rest of the league and get him off the team. But he does not fit with what they're trying to do in Minnesota.
No.
A lot of question marks. A lot
Nothing
of questions
fits in Minnesota. It's like,
yeah,
it's a bunch
it's
of puzzle
crazy.
pieces of not the same puzzle.
Yeah. But I mean, there are similarities to that Cleveland Cavaliers roster where you have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley on the court at the same time. And obviously, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert are not the same players as Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. But when those two guys take the court together, the Cavs have the best defensive rating in the league. And when Jared Allen has been sitting or has been hurt, they fall to like 28th, 29th, 30th. So there's a
Jared
way
Allen's
to make a Twin Towers lineup work in the modern NBA. I still think Rudy Gobert can be half of that. I don't believe that Karl Anthony Towns can be half of that. I've completely lost faith in him as a winning basketball player.
He's a loser. Let's just call it what it is. He's a loser. Like, he doesn't rebound. He doesn't box out. He like pouts. He has like DeMarcus Cousins level like pouting syndrome.
What was it? What was it? What was the funny tweet about DeMarcus Cousins back in the day that was on like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever? Somebody they called him when they said Jimmy Butler looked like a tiki head looking motherfucker. I think they said that DeMarcus Cousins was an emotional lesbian.
Oh my God.
Which is just such an accurate portrayal of how Boogie would look on the court sometimes.
Yeah, he would complain all the time.
He was horrible. I mean, Cat's not that bad.
He would get caught under the basket. He'd fucking hit the ground and not get up for multiple plays. He would sit and argue with refs and get technicals. Like, and there was a point, like when he went to Denver where he had kind of gotten that out of his system and he was a good bench guard or a good bench big, excuse me. But at that point, like the book was out on him. And at that point, his athleticism was gone.
I say two like major injuries later.
If he had his Nuggets mentality with his Kings athleticism, the dude would have run the league. There's no chance. He was incredible.
He's a baller. He just, the attitude was like the worst, like the 1% of a winning.
Reminds me of
and he actually
Wallace.
could play defense, unlike Karl Anthony Towns, who seems to be allergic to it. Boogie, when he was locked in, knew how to play defense. He just clearly didn't like it.
He has James Harden level
just
of like,
doesn't get it. And I don't understand, like, we keep talking about Cat as like a prospect who's got like MVP potential or whatever, whenever these writers talk about him. It's like he's in his 7th or 8th year in the league. He is a formed player. He's not getting better.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem. Like, they always talk about like his offense, which his offense is incredible. Like, he could be the most skilled offensive big man, but like the way he can shoot, he's like a legitimate volume shooter, and he's skilled. But you can't be not. It's like worse than a net negative. It's like whatever he is on defense, it's worse than a net negative. And to me, it's like damning that they felt like they had to trade for Rudy Gobert instead of like, oh, maybe we'll improve the guard play. Like DeJounte Murray, I still think would have been a perfect trade for the Timberwolves. And I roasted the trade when they got Gobert, and it's worked even worse than I would have thought, or it's been even worse than I would have thought.
Not even just the fact that they got Gobert, which I'm still holding out hope on, and I'm probably going to be on this island for way too long because that's kind of how I am with my takes. But the fact that they gave up what they gave up to get Gobert, like not even just the picks, but you gave up part of your defensive identity to get a player who's designed to help your defensive identity. Okay, so let's say even if the Gobert experiment was working and he goes down with an injury 15 games into the season, you're done. You've given up everything. Like you've sold the farm on a dude who's over 30.
And like the problem with the Jazz was he was the only plus defender on the team. And then he went to the Timberwolves and was the only plus defender on the team. Like Anthony Edwards has potential, but he's almost like, he reminds me of Donovan Mitchell, where like if he was locked in, he could probably be a really good defender. He was just not locked in.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the Andrew Wiggins thing. If Wiggins ever figures out defense, is what they used to say, he's going to be so good at it. And he figured out defense. Like he figured it out last year. This year, obviously the Warriors are regressing a bit, but he knows what he's doing out there now, and he has the athleticism to take advantage of the fact that he knows what he's doing. Anthony Edwards will get there. What is he going to get there on Rudy Gobert's timeline? Or is this going to fuck everybody's timeline and we're going to go through another Minnesota rebuild?
Probably that.
Yeah. Which is a tough look for a team that apparently lives in a rebuild. I can't really say anything. I'm a Washington Wizards fan. I would love for us to rebuild at some point. We have refused to rebuild since John Wall was drafted, and basically none of those players, including John Wall, have been on this team for years now. So,
except it was John Ball. Was it him and Beal back-to-back years, right?
Beal, I think, was 2 years after John.
Okay,
if I remember correct. He may have been the year. I think it was 2 years. John was the 2010 draft.
2010. I remember he was 2010.
Speaking of no real rebuilds like the Wizards do, since the NBA has turned to an 82 game season, no team has had more 38 to 44 win seasons than the Wizards with 22.
Yeah, that's
total.
not a surprising stat to me.
That checks out.
Yeah, I don't. I think
year.
you could talk to literally anyone in DC, people that don't even know anything about the Wizards, and they'd be like, "Yeah, they're the most average team that has ever existed."
If you bet futures for like a decade that the Wizards would just finish 38, like above around 38 games, like you'd make so much money. They've been so mediocre for so long.
Pay attention to Wizards Twitter on the years where the Wizards hit over 41 wins. It's like our championship. If we have an over 500 season, we're smoking cigars, we're hanging out by the pool, we're getting models and champagne, and then we're like, oh shit. We're an 8 seed and we're about to get crushed by the Celtics or the Sixers or the Hawks or the Bucks or the early days, the 2006 days, the Cavaliers.
Yeah, with LeBron.
Yeah. And it's just like, what are we even hoping for anymore? I know we said this episode we weren't going to talk about the Lakers. We weren't going to talk about the Nets. We were not going to talk about the Sixers. And I was like, we can talk about the Wizards. They're a winning basketball team right now. I don't want to talk about the Wizards. It's not good for me.
I mean, I'm going to tell you this, but it's just it's ownership. The ownership is perfectly fine with. They would rather win 42 games for the rest of their existence than to bottom out for 2 years.
We were a hair away from one of our only 5-game win streaks of the past decade last night. We lost to the Thunder. Lost to the Thunder by 1 point.
Oh, that must
SGA.
SGA had 40 something. He also had like 19 free throws.
So someone posted that, just speaking of the Clippers thing with Kawhi, how he hasn't really played. In the summer of 2019, the Clippers traded SGA, Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps for Paul George, and then the opportunity to sign Kawhi. Mm-hmm. So, like,
truthfully, they were trading them for both of them because the knowledge was.
I still think you probably do that trade.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, at that point in who Kawhi was, he was coming off of being called the best player in the world. He had one of the greatest finals or playoff and finals runs of the past 20 years. Obviously, there's the injuries. The same thing with Paul George. You knew there were the injuries, but
I mean, it's like,
you got to do that. If that presents itself to you and you can
do
afford
that
it, which Palmer can, you got to do it.
And you get rid of Doc before they ever play together. That was the problem. You just got to get rid. The Doc Rivers was the problem there.
Yeah, you waste some time with Doc Rivers.
Saying it's one of those things where it's like, well, if you could tell someone that you could put a team of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant on the same roster, would you do it? And it's been
they're a hamstring pull and a sprained ankle away.
Assuming you're saying that you're doing it, but like under 2025, yes, you do it. If we're talking like, this is them in their last year. If we're talking like the 2004 Lakers, where you're getting shells of Gary Payton and the mailman. Yeah. That's not that interesting to me, but we're talking about these guys in ostensibly their prime. Fuck yeah, you do it.
Peak of their powers. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with trading for James Harden. If you're the Sixers, even if you believe that Ben Simmons is going to come back to be a high level player, if your timeline is Joel Embiid,
he'll be a G
under
League
30
MVP,
and healthy,
that's fine.
You make the trade to get the best point guard of the past 10 years.
Yeah, maybe we'll save this for the next episode because it's a Sixers topic, but it's been going around like they could have traded Ben Simmons basically for Halliburton and Buddy Hield. Like that was an offer that was on the table.
Sure.
And I think my Sixers podcast is basically saying like, if you know how good Maxey was going to be, then you probably just do the Halliburton one. Cause like there's like a perfect backcourt.
Right. But you also, like the Halliburton thing, like, yes, Halliburton was balling on the Kings, but they were still a losing team, like very much so. And you really don't like know when a guard's development is going to stop. Like if you have a finished product that you're ready to pair with your other finished product, which James Harden was, I get making that choice, particularly like Buddy Hield, I think after this year is going to be an expiring contract and he's going to want to get paid again. And he absolutely should not be paid again because he's not a winning basketball player. I can see why a team would choose the James Harden route instead of the Halliburton route, just because,
especially because it was Daryl. Like,
and James Harden too. Like I miss having someone on the team that makes everyone around him better. Like he is that type of player. For as much as he ISOs and as much as he does dribble, like his drives do generate points because he knows where to go with the initial ball, and then it's just like moving and swinging from there. There's a lot of like hockey assists that get generated from his drives. Yeah, I miss when he was playing on the Nets. That was a fun time when they were balling. But
first year,
dude, I don't even like the Rockets. I miss when he was playing on the Rockets. Like I fucking loved Rockets James. I know that a lot of people hated the way that he would foul bait and all that shit, but there were games where he wasn't doing that, particularly if he knew that he had an advantage. So I mean, like obviously it got worse when he was playing other contenders, and he would drop 45 on step backs and beautiful layups, and like he'd have like 45 and 12 in 33 minutes because the guy was just a fucking monster.
I mean, how many years do you think they win the title if the Warriors don't exist? That Rockets team.
2. I think they win at least 2 titles. I think he probably goes back to back.
I mean, I think that Rockets team is like going to be criminally underrated because of the Warriors. Like
they already are. They already are.
Yeah,
people, the way that people have already written the narrative on James Harden. And I mean, like, yeah, there are obviously playoff issues. I'm not going to
Mike D'Antoni too, man. That guy couldn't catch a break.
Sure. James Harden had good playoffs against the Warriors, and I'm not going to put that playoff collapse in Game 7 against the Warriors exclusively on James Harden.
He missed 26 or whatever it was straight threes. That was like absurd.
Yeah, but the team fell apart, and there was a fundamental problem with the way that they were playing basketball, and the fact that they were refusing to shoot mid-range shots. Like, obviously it got them there, but they didn't have a backup plan. And so that's not James Harden's fault. That's an organizational flaw.
Well, Chris Paul was all the mid-range.
It's a Daryl Morey flaw. It's
yeah, and I'll go to my grave that if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, that they win Game 6 or 7. Like I'll go to my grave that they will probably win that.
To be fair,
he hit so
there's probably a few series that we could talk about. If Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, his team wins the title.
Fair. I mean, yeah, that's fair. Or if the Suns don't get COVID last year.
Yeah. Suns don't get COVID. There's a couple Clippers teams in there that if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they're.
Remember
he
beat the Spurs on a game winner and
on one leg,
his hand like on that play, right? Or it was his leg that he
fucking hit that like fadeaway on one leg and he was limping all over the court.
Or he just has a total meltdown against OKC when they could have gone up 3-1, whenever that was.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players, and these are still like people aren't going to ignore the fact that these guys are all-time greats, but it's probably the same way that a lot of people from our generation talk about guys like T-Mac or
love Tracy McGrady,
or like there's players in that realm. Vince Carter. There's players in that realm who are all-time greats in terms of talent and in terms of what they were able to accomplish in the regular season, and things just didn't fall their way in the playoffs. That doesn't mean that they were a bad team. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be remembered. Like that Rockets team should absolutely be remembered because they broke basketball.
Old Rockets team.
Well, like if you want to talk about T-Mac, like if Yao Ming doesn't have like the horrible foot issues, like who knows what that like first iteration of the Rockets could have become.
Because T-Mac was always hurt too. They were like both just they couldn't match up. If
Yao Ming is not expected to play basketball 365 days a year for like 7 straight years, he's probably winning a couple titles.
Yeah.
Because when he touched the court, as beat up as he was a guaranteed 24 and 12 every single night.
He was amazing.
Like he was a freak.
I think if he grew up now, I think what we know about like load management and like how to take care of players' bodies and like knowing, it's almost the same thing with Greg Oden. Like if they just learn that Greg Oden has 1 foot bigger than the other, they just get him resized shoes and then he's fine. So I think it's like one of those things, like one of those what ifs, if he grew up in a different era, like now where we know more, like we know better. We just have better technology, better like science around like athletes' bodies and stuff. Who knows?
And I mean, Yao Ming is also a product of China at the time becoming like one of the fundamental world powers and them having him out on the world stage constantly as kind of like an expression of like, we're joining the rest of the world in athletic glory.
Yeah.
Even with the health stuff ignored, just 10 years later, the world climate for Yao Ming to be a player for their world team would be entirely different. And they would probably understand that him winning an NBA title would be far better for, Chinese basketball than having him play in these meaningless
So he
FIBA
played
games.
so many other games. Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing exhibitions every single day during the offseason.
That's insane.
Like
for someone that big,
7'5", 7'6", whatever he is, and the
Put
guy's
so many
pushing
miles on
400
you.
pounds, and he's putting that on his fucking feet every single day. Just a ridiculous choice.
yeah.
So it's like the thing with LeBron, it's like, yeah, he's played like so many seasons and has so much continuity, but also it's like when you consider how many playoffs he's been in, it's like a whole other season, I think, like when just playing time. So it's like all those miles you put on your body. Yeah, no wonder. And I mean, that's why so many people got hurt at the beginning of the post lockout year, or not lockout, post COVID year, when they had like no rest time.
Yeah.
It's just like you see what happens when players get no rest and then just are forced to put all that mileage on their body. But
yeah, and the Olympics happened that year too, right? Or was it the year before? No, it was after the COVID year. Like after the Bucks won the title was when.
Yeah, because they just postponed it to 2021. So it's like, damn, 2020 had the coolest Olympic logo possible, and now it's like 2021 fucked it all up.
The 2020 Olympics in 2021.
Yeah. I mean, that year is going to have an outsized effect for multiple. I mean, it changed the shape of a lot of people's careers. It changed the shape of a lot of stars' careers. And I mean, for good and bad, obviously we've talked about it a million times. The Lakers win that bubble title, but
didn't Vince Carter retire before or like during the bubble? I
remember it was like he didn't want to retire. The bubble, I think.
Yeah, because he didn't want to retire either, but just like
yeah, just weird shit. And no real celebration of Vince Carter. Although I would argue probably the last 5 years of his career were a celebration of Vince Carter because he was just a role
every
player.
year we thought that was going to be his last one.
Yeah, he would dunk like twice a season, and it would be like the top post on Twitter for like 48 hours. Like,
he'd still hit some clutch threes. He had some clutch threes. No, I mean
he was a good role player. I just mean like when he would do something that was like half man, half amazing Vince Carter, even if it was just like a low hanging two-handed dunk or something like that. Like
it's like he's still 40 years old.
Yeah. I did want to talk about a little bit before we move on to a couple other things. We were talking about the Cavs, we were talking about the Kings, talking about some of the good teams in the league this year. Small markets are dominating the West right now. And I mean, they're doing pretty well in the East, although obviously at the top of the East right now are the Celtics, who look amazing. So I'm not going to call them a small market, but just to rattle off the top 8 seeds in the Western Conference,
Blazers.
You have Portland, Phoenix, Denver, Utah, New Orleans, Memphis, Dallas, and Sacramento. Yeah. There is not a single team on the list of the top 8 in the West that I would call a big market on a regular basis. There's no Warriors. There's neither of the LA teams. The Rockets are not there, who, obviously we don't think of them as a big market necessarily, but Houston, I think, is like a top 7 or 8 market in the country. The biggest market on that list is probably Dallas, maybe Phoenix.
I feel like Phoenix. I feel like if they weren't hadn't been such a train wreck for so long, we would view them like the Warriors before Steph Curry was not viewed as like a big market, even though they were in San Francisco, because they were like, I mean, how long were the Warriors horrible? They had that one.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you had the We Believe team, and that's about it.
Yeah, like they were considered like the joke of the league for so long, and then they get Steph Curry and they have like this miraculous run, and now it's like, well, of course the Warriors are like, I mean, and they've always been in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. I kind of view Phoenix.
It's not just the miraculous run, which obviously coincided with a lot of other things for that area. It's the fact that they had that miraculous run on the tail end of like Silicon Valley venture capital taking over the world.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris Mullin was nice for the OG Warriors back in the day.
Yeah, throw it back a little bit.
Yeah, Chris Mullin.
I mean, Phoenix is not like a small market by any means. One of the fastest growing metro areas in the country. But if I'm talking like big media markets, I'm talking, Philly, New York, LA, Chicago, at this point, San Francisco, Texas, which is, I guess, weird because Texas has, 3 or 4 teams. But like,
I feel like the Mavs are probably the biggest, but I'd put like even New Orleans or Memphis, like those southern like growing cities. But
you would put New Orleans as a big market.
Getting bigger. Who knows?
I mean,
I mean, sure, every city's getting bigger, but I'll tell you right now, I would not put New Orleans as a big market.
if they didn't have Zion, no one would like. They could have the same exact roster, be 9-6 without Zion, and nobody would care about the Pelicans.
Yeah, look at what happened 3 years ago with Anthony Davis. Nobody was like, "Oh, it's a lateral move for him to go from the Pelicans to the Lakers." It was like, "Oh, small market superstar leaves for the Lakers."
Going to the Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the Pelicans just have gotten so much pop because Zion's been there.
They're an incredible team. They're a fun team, and let's call it what it is. They get more top picks than a lot of teams in the league. I'm not going to say one thing or the other about it, but they're a small market.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting, the fact that that big market dominance. I think trades are having a lot more effect on what teams are dominating and building internally, kind of the way that baseball does, a lot more than free agency and going to a big market. Clippers are not dominating with the kind of free agency they've had. Lakers are not dominating. Knicks kind of never dominate. The Celtics are not who they are because of free agency. They're who they are because of building within the draft. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's true. The biggest free agent that they signed is like Al Horford.
Yeah.
And
they're just like re-signing their players.
Kemba, and then like Kemba, of course.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of
Kyrie.
Or Kyrie.
But
that was a trade. That was a trade. Yeah.
That was a trade, yeah.
I'm trying to think of like who the biggest. I mean, again, trade Kevin Garnett.
Yeah,
he was a trade, but he was a trade because of the sketchiness of the Minnesota front office, because Kevin McHale was running their front office.
Yeah, didn't Kevin Garnett have a no trade? Am I remember this right? Did he have a no trade clause and he like waived it?
He may have. I think they got him to agree to waive it. It was basically like, it's like everybody else's no trade clause. Like Kobe had a no trade clause, but he was willing to go to the Bulls if he could have gotten put on that Bulls team in like 2008.
Yeah.
Before the Lakers got Pau Gasol. It's a no trade clause unless it's to a team that I want to go to. Yeah. Which is why it's funny that Bradley Beal of all fucking people has a no trade clause, because it's like, you're Bradley Beal. Who are you?
He's never going to leave DC. He's never going to leave. He's going to get average 30 a game in losing 45 to 50 games for the rest of his career.
He gets his stats.
I'll tell you, I'd love if he got back to 30 a game. He hasn't been at 30 a game in some time.
Yeah, since 2 years ago, the bubble, the COVID year. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he'll get back to it. Maybe he'll lead us to the promised land. Probably not.
Last year, close to the leading the league. I thought
2
he
years
had a really
ago.
good last
2
year.
years. 2 years ago was when Curry won it over him. With like 2 days to go in the season.
And last year is Embiid and
Embiid won
Curry.
it last year.
Yeah.
Embiid, I think Embiid and a couple guys were pretty up near each other.
I forgot who was coming
down.
LeBron. LeBron was up there too.
Oh yeah.
LeBron was like, first he was like 0.2 behind, but he also missed the cutoff for number of games anyways. He was 1 game below what he needed. But yeah, Beal missed a lot of last season, so he was not there.
Yeah, he had that wrist. You get like the wrist surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple more things before we get out of here. I know we don't want to go too long today. Any players you guys have been super impressed by so far this season? Can be an existing MVP, can be a role player coming out of nowhere. Anybody, Ferentinos, that you're super into right now?
I mean, just as far as I know, I was saying he might have been the reason why the Cavs defense isn't doing as well, but Darius Garland on offense, and he's dropping 50 against the Wolves. That was pretty cool. And the Cavs are just fun to watch. It's not been fun watching the Nets, so I don't want to talk about them too much. It's been brutal. Watching the teams that play the Nets, though, they play a lot better. And then Banchero, too, for the Magic is just having a really nice rookie season. He's playing really well. They're not winning games, but, I mean, he looks like a just bona fide superstar. It's crazy how, like, he looks like he's been playing for 5 years in the league already when you watch the games. Yeah,
it's incredible. Like people said he was the most NBA ready of those guys between him and Chet and Jabari. And I get that. Yeah, I mean, he's got the footwork, he's got the scoring touch, he's a big dude. I didn't think he was this ready. I mean, he looks like, it's going to fall off because it always does. They always hit the rookie wall, usually around 55, 60 games, where they're like, shit, I've never played this many games in a season
like
before.
this. Yeah.
But I mean, he looks incredible out there. Like, he's got moves on moves on moves, and he's going to get bigger. He's going to bulk up, and he's going to start fucking bodying dudes in the paint. Sky's the limit for Paulo.
I
Yeah.
do think it's kind of funny that they like started 1-8 or whatever it was, and then he got hurt,
Mhm.
and then they started winning games.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, you get the ball in the hands a lot.
Better.
He's still going to make bad decisions. It's the same thing with like Jalen Green the first half of, or even the second half of last year. It's not like they were winning games when Jalen Green's play improved, but you could tell that he was like developing as a player. But
yeah,
no, Banchero is going to lose a ton of games. He's going to lose, the majority of probably the next 3 years. But in
yeah,
4 years, with the way that they're building this team, I think we're finally looking at like Orlando, assuming people stay healthy and they want to stay on this roster, they're finally going to be coming out of like the post Dwight Howard years of getting a good team together. Because they tried it with like Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. They tried it with a bunch of other players, but it never really took off the way it did during the Dwight years.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, a lot of just like a limited ceiling. Like they're like the 8 seed that I remember of like the most 8
Yeah.
seed of all 8 seeds.
Yeah, which most teams understand that if you are a perennial 8 seed, you got to pack it in. You got to trade your assets and you got to build again.
Most teams understand.
Most teams understand that. There's one team that I think we all can think of that does not understand that. And they're like, yo, 8 seed playoffs, baby. Anything can happen.
It took the Magic a while to understand that. Like, I never thought they were going to trade Vooch. I thought they were just going to hold on to him forever.
Look, man, if I had Aaron Gordon on my team, just watching the way that guy can dunk, I'd be like, let's give it another year. Let's run it back a few more times. How many dunk contest trophies can we get second place for?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if they get Scoot or if they get Wembanyama,
Yeah.
it's a high ceiling team. I love Wagner. Franz is a stud.
Yeah. He's one of the guys that I wanted to mention in terms of like who's really impressed me. I mean, he impressed me last year, but he's a beast.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's one of those do everything guys. Like there's so many guys coming into the league that can do everything, and they can do it as rookies and as sophomores at like a decent level. So assuming, and trajectory is not always linear, some guys never get there, but the level of quality that we're seeing from young players these days is crazy.
Ball handling and shot making, it's crazy. Yeah. Like just you expect players that are like power forward height to be able to dribble and drive and shoot now. And it's like, yeah, like looking at like a Rudy Gobert center, like now you have Wembanyama who's 7'4" and doing this shit. So it's like no excuse.
That guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, even guys that have been in the league for a long time. I mean, look at a Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is 6'8", 6'9", can defend essentially every position aside from really
lanky.
Big centers.
He's got huge arms.
On his best days, plays like a more athletic Kobe Bryant. Like guys like him largely didn't exist 20 years ago. And every time that a superstar is getting close to retirement, I've read all these stories about how it happened with MJ, how they were like, okay, who's next up? Who are our stars going to be? And largely it was Shaq and Kobe. So the league was fortunate that they both made their way to a really big team. And then when those guys were kind of trending downwards, it was like, okay, obviously LeBron James is the next guy. And then, Steph Curry was kind of the next guy. But Steph and LeBron aren't that far apart in age. So there have been a lot of rumblings of worry around the league on like, who's the next superstar going to be? I don't know who the next superstar is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Luka.
Giannis. I think they already have.
Almost every team is going to be the type of team that's going to have like a legitimate star player.
The talent in the league is like insane at this.
Giannis is a superstar in terms of play, and he's very likable. I don't think Giannis is ever going to have the global effect of a Curry or a LeBron James.
It's just funny. Like they're
wildly profitable players.
Yeah.
I think it's like Giannis is incredible, but when you watch him play, it's like athletically amazing. Where I feel like people, I mean, LeBron obviously is too, but he doesn't use his body the same way. Like he's not like a lanky freak that Giannis is. And Steph Curry, it's so relatable because he's just an incredible shooter. Like every white kid growing up is like, well, if I could be Steph Curry if I'm the best shooter of all time.
Yeah, and he just did shit that was so high excitement that it was getting non-basketball fans to be into it. Like I don't necessarily feel like Giannis has that same effect. And it's not a knock on Giannis. It's just not his game.
Yeah, you need to like appreciate nuances.
I think we're getting tired of it because I don't know. He's done some amazing shit. I think when Giannis,
I'm not getting tired of Giannis. I wish I was a Bucks fan. I wish
2 steps and dunking. Who did he dunk over? Hardaway on the Knicks. Like he literally just jumped over him for an alley oop. Like that was insane. Everyone's like, "Oh, Vince Carter dunking over that 7-footer is the greatest dunk ever." Yeah, but Giannis literally made it look like he was like, oh, whoops, sorry you're there. Like, imagine just like
I've been on
getting
the
jumped
train
over. It was
for
insane.
3 years, basically since the
Yeah.
bubble ended. I've been on the train that Giannis is the best player in basketball, and
And he
everybody else is
wins, and
competing for second
he
place.
keeps improving too. Like he's every
Yeah.
year he is
He's
improving,
actually
which is the scary thing. It's that he's getting better and better still.
He's
And
young.
he's like, yeah,
He's 27.
yeah, he's actually someone that I wanted to mention because I feel like there's so many superstars that are like so rigid and just do what they do and don't change, like Russell Westbrook, like a James Harden, where I feel like Giannis doesn't get enough credit for the humility to be like, oh, like I'm never going to be good enough to be the primary ball handler on an offense that wins a championship. So I'm just going to become the best screener in the game.
Sure.
Like like that was the reason why they stifled their offense, stifled the bubble year and the year before the bubbles. They just couldn't do anything on offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the fact that he's even developed to the point, even prior to that, where they were losing in the second round, where a guy of his physical dimensions, who a lot of teams would say, you're going to play 4, and you're going to be like our best wing defender and all this other stuff. Giannis sometimes plays center. Giannis sometimes plays point guard, and he oftentimes will play everything in between those things. Like the ability to develop all of your skills enough to the point where you can do that, where you can be the primary ball handler if they need you to be. If they want you going downhill, like you're the guy, or if they want you standing under the basket, you can be that guy. Like and granted, not many people have his physical dimensions. We might see a little bit of that from like a guy like Evan Mobley or something in a few years, but the ability to understand that you're going to be asked to be a Swiss Army knife for this team while also having superstar level play every single night. Like we've seen Swiss Army knives. They don't play like this. They're, 12, 7, and 4 guys. They're not 32, 15, and 8.
Yeah. To me, it's the humility to actually be like, I'll do whatever it takes to win. Like, I just don't care. Like I mean, like it was the same playoff year, but I think of like how he handled the free throw issues that he had the year they won the title versus like Ben Simmons. It's like it's like such an easy comparison of someone who's like screw this, I'm just going to work through it and become the best player ever, and someone that just wilted.
And then it's funny because he like used the countdown to help him at a certain point. Like it was like
got him in a
better
rhythm.
Yeah, it's like okay, at 7 seconds or like whatever. It's like
I'm good. Yeah,
routine.
It's incredible. Like I could talk about Giannis all day.
And then he's like 80%.
I'm like grinning to myself thinking about how good of a player he is.
Because of course against
we don't see shit like that. He was a project. He's not a Doncic. He's not. I mean, like Jokic a little bit. Although Jokic, I think it was more the body issues than the talent. Like
look at him when he was
not
drafted.
a LeBron James hyped out of high school.
He was
even like Embiid was going to be the number 1 pick if he didn't get hurt. Like Embiid had a late, like in his life started playing basketball late, but when he was ready to come to the NBA, everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to be incredible." Giannis
Embiid had an NBA body by the time he was 18. Like Embiid, even at his leanest when he was at Kansas, like he was still a fucking brick shithouse. Giannis was like came into the league about what I weigh right now. I think he came into the league around like 210.
He was,
and he has 7 inches on me. So like he came in looking like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And honestly, Kevin Durant too deserves a little bit. Like he put on weight too, just not in the way that Giannis did. And I don't think that would have been good for Kevin Durant's game to put on weight like that.
Different players.
Yeah, entirely separate.
Yeah. The other team and 2 players I wanted to give a shout out to, the Pacers. Sure. 7 and 6, 6 seed in the East. Halliburton, who we already talked about, is absolutely balling. I love Brett Mathurin from Arizona. I think he's
so good.
The maturity that he shows.
Benedict Mathurin.
Yeah, did I say Brett? Yeah, Benedict.
You said Brett, and I was like, I don't think they've got a guy named Brett on there.
I started saying Brett, and then I knew that was wrong, so I just said his last name.
Our rookie of the year.
Are there any NBA players named Brett? I feel like if your name's Brett, you're kind of like disqualified from like the NBA.
Sports, to be honest.
That's just how I feel.
If your name's Brett, you're probably just like
Favre. Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just gonna take advantage of state governments.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But I didn't have anything more. Just wanted to give them a shout out. I feel like the Pacers are fun. Halliburton's been incredible. Mathurin's been great.
Yeah, I think at some point the Pacers might try and lock it in a little bit and try and get down to a better pick. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Mathurin's a rookie. If they're like, look, we're 500 near the All-Star break, let's tank these last 25 games or whatever and see like if we can get like a top 8 pick. But at the same time, if they're 500 at the All-Star break, they might be like, yo, let's let it ride. Let's see how much development we can get for these guys this year. Let's take advantage of this.
Yeah,
don't
I feel
know.
like the Pacers and Larry Bird's a man who likes to win, you know? I feel like they typically do, like if they want to compete, they will. And they have the
They're
talent.
adamant about not tanking. I
They've
think I
always
think
Yeah.
punched above their weight.
yeah, they've
Yeah.
always been very, very clear that like basketball means a lot to Indiana. We can't tank. If we are going to do so, we can only do it for like 1 or 2 years, and then we have to go back to being like a near 50 win team like immediately. And they're
Yeah.
really good. They're really good at finding talent in the draft, and they're
And
really
like,
good at developing guys.
yeah, or finding like they found Danny Granger, then they found Paul George, and then
Yeah,
they like
no one knew Paul George was going to be Paul George. There
Yeah.
was no indications whatsoever that he was
Yeah.
going to end up becoming an actual bona fide superstar.
and then they like I mean they didn't draft him, but they took the chance on Oladipo and had like he had incredible years. What I think is going to
all
happen,
NBA.
yeah. What I think is going to happen is I think they're going to be like okay around the All-Star break, and then I think they're going to sell Turner and Hield, and then just tank the rest from the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Tank from there.
I will say Turner has looked a little bit better this year in the games where he's getting his touches, but knowing what he's going to try and command in salary, I would move him.
Do you think they'll take Turner and Hield for Ben Simmons?
How many picks do the Nets have?
I don't know.
They have the Sixers pick. I don't
it's
think
going
they
to be
have
picks.
anything.
They're gonna trade them for picks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Utah, gets to the point where they're like, we feel pretty good about this roster and we want to add like size to it. They have a lot of picks that they could potentially sell to the Pacers, and same thing for OKC.
I just don't see Danny Ainge or Presti doing that. I think
Presti doing it.
Like,
I mean, it's just they're
they
like
so many.
I don't know if Utah has the same problem, but OKC has literally so many picks that they have more picks than they have roster spots at this point of first round guys. They have 17 first round picks in the next 5 years.
It's insane. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but I think they're just going to cash those chips in when the next superstar becomes available.
Right.
That's what I think they're going to do.
I think OKC's got their guy. I think OKC is going to be fully on the SGA and Dort tandem, and next year, you're going to have Chet come back. Yeah, I think we're looking at the majority of their starting five right now.
They're missing a wing, I think, is what they need.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of you never know who's going to be the next star that asks out. If it's Embiid, like
Jaylen Brown.
It could be Jaylen Brown.
They could be Jaylen Brown. I've never even thought about that. It could be Jaylen Brown.
He's got 2 years left.
There's guys that it could be. I mean, every year you see a dude who does not like his role.
Oh, of course. It's hard to predict. Is some of them are obvious, like the Anthony Davis, Donovan Mitchell ones.
Anthony Edwards.
Could be Ant. Could be Ant.
Yeah.
Could be Carl.
I don't know. Ant's, no matter what, Ant's going to get his rookie extension. They always get the rookie extension, right? Yeah. Because it doesn't make sense not to give it to him.
They make more money to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Zion.
So I think Ant's going to be on Minnesota for at least 6 years. So I don't really think his timeline is going to coincide with SGA's. But, weirder things have happened. We are coming up on a new collective bargaining agreement. Things could very well change. We could end up having a hard cap, and then the way that we look at these teams is going to be entirely different.
I like Jaylen Brown. That's a good guess. I think
that'd be a fun one.
He's shown that he's been annoyed with the Celtics organization multiple times now,
and the city of Boston.
In the city of Boston,
as many black athletes have been.
Yeah. But even the organization, when he was in trade rumors for Anthony Davis, that pissed him off,
and Kevin Durant.
And then I was just gonna say, and then literally he's I just took these motherfuckers to the finals.
Yeah, look, if I'm a player for the Celtics more than any other team, and it's not just because of my personal distaste for the Celtics, if I'm a player for the Celtics and I'm even a role player, I am not thinking about loyalty to the Celtics when I'm thinking about my contracts, because they will not be loyal to you. And I mean, for good and bad, the Celtics more than any other team understand that it's a business, but for good and bad, they also seem to kind of miss the interpersonal aspect of that business. And so they end up burning a lot of guys. They're the Celtics. They're always going to get new good players. But if I'm Tatum or Brown or whatever, and they're doing anything at all to try and reduce my value, I'm gone.
Yeah, I think Tatum's the one that they're going to do everything they can to keep, because he's obviously the superstar. Brown, I think, is going to be the one to go.
Yeah, and I think since Tatum's rookie year, I think we all kind of saw that was going to happen.
Yeah,
because people tried to set them against each other the same way they tried to set John Wall and Bradley Beal against each other. The same way they do with any young players who are on similar timelines. It's they're only going to pick one of you. Yeah, KD and Russ and James Harden.
And they shipped away Harden.
Yeah, they made arguably the wrong, probably
shipped
the
away
wrong
Russ.
They made
Yeah.
one of the worst trades of all time.
Yeah, not great. And then the guy immediately turned into an all-star because he was already an all-star. He was just on a minutes restriction.
Yeah, I mean, that should be like its own solo pod. Is just like the Oklahoma City going to the finals, and then that core
Blowing
never
up.
stepping on the basketball court again together.
I don't know if there's anything that we could say about it that Bill Simmons has not already said for 7 years.
That's fair.
Like,
I mean, that's
since
fair.
the day that trade happened, Bill Simmons is like, this is going to go down as arguably the worst. Like, and he's not even the biggest James Harden guy in the world, but he's like, this is one of the worst things that a team has ever done.
Yeah,
You had
he's not
a
wrong.
legitimate future Hall of Famer, and you gave him away for scraps.
For literally nothing, and
It wasn't even that they couldn't afford him; it was that they didn't want to pay the full max for him because it would have gotten them in like the lowest tier of the luxury tax.
Yeah, and weren't they gonna wasn't he gonna accept like not the full max too? It wasn't like whatever.
Yeah,
contract.
he was gonna take a slight discount, just like he did with the Sixers.
Yeah,
just like understanding that there, because it would affect the luxury tax. I think he was going to take like $4 million less a year than what he was.
Yeah, that's what I remember. That they would like. It wasn't even the max that he was saying, "Pay me." Ugh. I mean, I'm not.
There's a lot of things that have happened to OKC where it's like, and I mean, there's other ones where Kevin Durant leaving, like OKC was getting ready to acquire Al Horford, and somebody else, and so it would have been a core of Horford, Ibaka, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Steven Adams, and I think some other guard would have been like their bench guard or something, like somebody good.
Reggie
Plus
Jackson,
everyone they already had. Reggie was already gone because he had issues with Westbrook.
With Russ, of course.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember who it was, but if they had gotten Horford, if Kevin Durant stays and re-signs, even if he just takes like a 2-year deal, they're getting Al Horford. And that team is winning a title.
Didn't they trade Ibaka before Kevin Durant left? Didn't they trade him like around the draft of that year?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure Ibaka was on the 2016
yeah, he was on the year that they blew the 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
Wait, so
and then KD left immediately after.
Yeah, but I think that I guess maybe I'm confused at the timeline because
I think Ibaka left the next year because he was. I don't remember where he was traded to next, but I think he went to
Orlando.
Magic. Yeah, and then he got traded to the Raptors.
Okay, I thought he got traded. I thought they traded Ibaka before Kevin Durant had it. Like I think it was the same offseason. I mean, it does. Sorry. It doesn't matter that much. It's just like semantics.
Yeah,
but
it's 6 years ago at this point, which is crazy.
Which is wild.
Because I fucking distinctly, or 6.5 years ago, I distinctly remember that day, 4th of July, hanging out Ocean City, Maryland, and getting a notification that Kevin Durant has signed with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
What a time. All right. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we get out of here? I did have a Game Pass team of the week.
So did I. That's it. I had a Game Pass team of the week.
Ferentino, so you got one, or you chilling? You're just gonna watch everybody. You're not gonna watch.
Keep watching the Jazz. Keep watching what they're doing.
Well, that is, fuck you. My Game Pass team of the week. Utah Jazz.
They're not the 1 seed anymore.
They're not 1 seed anymore. You know who they lost.
They got to sneak back in the top 3. The
little team called the Washington Wizards.
You know who else they lost to?
The Sixers. Yeah, back-to-back nights.
And like one of the best games a human being's ever played.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, literally one of the best box scores I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And a very clutch fourth quarter for him.
24 of 25 points.
The Jazz play Phoenix on Friday, which is probably the day that this is going to come out. So they're going to play Phoenix tonight. They're going to play Portland on a back-to-back on Saturday. And then they've got the Clippers on Monday. And then I think this is not, I'm trying not to get too far out. I think they've got the Pistons on Wednesday. So they've got 3 playoff teams and then probably an almost guaranteed win against the Pistons.
Well, the team that I want to talk about is the team that they're playing, Portland, who is the 1 seed in the West.
Yeah.
Next 5, Nets, Jazz, Bucks, Cavs, and Knicks.
All right. So what do we think they're going to go in those 4 games? I'm going to say 2-2.
That's 5 games.
5 games. Who did I miss? Nets, I missed Bucks. You said Bucks is the second team?
Nets, that's a win.
Yeah.
Then the Jazz. Then the Bucks.
Cavs. That's Portland is tonight.
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
And then the Knicks. So they'll beat the Nets and the Knicks.
They're going to go 3-2.
And then they'll win one of Jazz, Bucks, Cavs.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm changing my
I think they're
pick.
going to go 3-2 in their next 5, and I think they're all probably going to be bangers. That's the thing about these Jazz games; they're bangers.
They're all
so
bangers.
much fun. They're
Same thing
so
with
much fun to watch.
Same thing with Portland.
Yeah, having a bunch of guys
And-
that can score and are like, "Yo, we're not supposed to be here. Fuck y'all. We're going to score on your heads every fucking night," is really fun to watch. These guys are like, they're just having fun out there.
I'm changing my pick just to give one of our most vocal Twitter followers some love.
The Raptors.
Toronto Raptors next
All
week.
right.
He said not to talk about them until Siakam comes back.
Well, they're still playing.
That's all right.
The
They're
Hawks.
still good. They're still
Hawks
they're
and
fine.
Cavs
The
with
Raptors
their
are going to
next
be
3 games.
As long as they don't
Yeah.
play in Tampa Bay, the Raptors are going to be good for the rest of our lives.
Which is fucking crazy because that's not who the Raptors used to be. And before they got Masai, that was
They were a
not the
joke.
book on the Raptors.
Yeah.
God, I wish that would happen for the Wizards or the Lakers. Honestly, I wish that would happen for the Sixers and the Nets too.
I was going to say the Lakers. I think
Get
you
the
had enough
fuck outta
winning in your
here.
lifetime.
Yeah, okay. The Lakers have won a lot in my lifetime, but they've won a lot. Well, I mean, the first half of it was because they were a really good organization. The
Despite
recent loss
themselves.
was in spite of organizational ineptitude.
Yeah,
Kenny Buss is not a good owner.
they won because LeBron James wanted to go to LA and he didn't want to go to the Clippers. That's like literally.
All right, I think we got to get out of here. Matt's
I'm
got to
playing
go.
the wrap up music.
Yeah. Both of you guys got to go. Safe travels back home, Modi. Ferentinos, good luck with your Pokemon game. Maybe I'll buy it and we'll play some co-op. If you're still tuned in, thank you
Ferentinos
so
and
much for
Modi.
watching. What's up?
I said we're both playing Pokemon.
I'll be playing as well. I just not
Right.
until Tuesday.
Well, I don't know when his is arriving. We might have our next episode recorded by the time his
Ooh.
arrives. Who's
Could
to
be.
say?
Could be.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
As always, thank you guys joining us for another episode. This is the Give and Go Show, and we will see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.